Hi everyone, can everybody hear me? Please just type a yes or no if you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay, that's 3 out of 10 yeses. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to be starting in about 2 minutes. I'm just waiting for the rest of the mentors to join us as well. They will be helping with any questions that you guys might have as I'm doing the presentation. You guys can also see my screen, right? Okay, awesome. For a change, we don't seem to have any issues. That's great news. Okay, so hi, Geordie. Thank you for joining. Right, so this is going to be a very quick run through of the relative basics of Python. It's going to be about 30 minutes. I will be running some code, and I did put all of the code that I'll be showing you today in this deck. So when you do get the email regarding this webinar, the deck should be included with that. If you don't receive it, just ping me on Discord and I will give it to you. Okay, happiness. Right, if you guys have any questions, just ask them in this chat. The other mentors will help you guys with any questions that you do have. And then I suppose let's get started. So the very first thing that I do want to say is throughout the short time that I have been mentoring, I have noticed that everyone seems to think that they're not built for it in one way or another at some point. So I want to tell you that this is completely normal. If you have errors, you're still learning. And it doesn't matter, and I do apologize for my spelling error there, but it doesn't really matter which level of coder you are. You could be an expert of 20 years, you could be a newbie of 1 month. Everyone goes through the issues of doubting themselves and having issues with their code and finding silly errors that they thought they'd never make. So, you know, just keep going at it. Okay, it's a practice. It's like mathematics. And I know most people hate math, but it really is that simple. You just need to keep practicing. Okay, and as long as you understand the concepts that you learn in coding, and when I say concepts, I mean things like arrays, lists, loops, those type of things, you can code in just about any language because all of the languages have those concepts. So it will just be a matter of Googling the new syntax and just applying what you know. So Python is a very simple language. It is pretty straightforward, very close to English, very similar to pseudocode. So that's why we start you guys off with Python. It is also one of the most, languages that is growing the fastest. And the reason for this is it can be used for just about anything. And because data science is also now on the rise, Python and R are also becoming more and more popular, more so Python for data science. Now, I'm not going to be covering much of data science or really anything in this lecture. I'm just going to be going through the very basics. You will be able to apply what you learn here in either data science, the very basics of data science, or in software engineering. But we were basically requested to do a tutorial on the software engineering task 25, which is the capstone project for that bootcamp. But some of the, like, I will be covering loops, I will be covering dictionaries and string slicing and things like that. Right, so we're going to get started with loops very quickly. So this is a while loop, okay? This is one of the things that if you don't do this right, you end up with an endless loop and you need to shut down the program in order to make it stop. So basically what this is doing here is I've declared a quit string, okay, and I've declared a counter. So a while loop basically goes while something is not true, so it works on a Boolean. While something is not true, keep doing what is inside of the loop. Otherwise, stop the loop, okay? So in this case, quit will stop my loop. So it says here, if quit is not equal to quit, keep doing this, okay? This entire thing here. So it's going to keep asking me here to enter a number, okay? This is a counter, okay? So just under the if statement, there's a counter there that goes plus equals 1, okay? So what this is going to do is it's just going to count how many times you run through the loop, okay? So this is pretty standard. If you print out the counter here, if you ran it, let's say you put in 4 numbers and you then type in quit, your counter is going to be 4 because it is going to count only once it comes back to the while here at the very top. So if you type quit, it is going to go through to the else statement and print the strings that I've put there and the count, if that makes sense. I will run this code for you now. I just want to explain to you what it is doing. Okay, so then also we've got the for loop. So a for loop is very similar to a while loop, although the syntax looks completely different. The concept remains the same. So I have here for I in range 1 to 10. So what it's basically saying is, while I'm less than 10, keep running. Okay. So it's going to, this is a nested loop. Okay. This is for the pyramid. Okay. Now, this first for loop where I'm setting the range 1 to 10, that is called the outer loop. So the outer loop will run once. Then your inner loop will run here. So now I'm setting it for x in range 1. And then I'm saying I, which is the outer loop's value, I. So this I will increment 1 through to 10, okay? So every time the outer loop runs, it's going to increment one more time. So I will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So in my inner loop, I'm saying that for x in range 1, and then I, which is that incremented I, plus 1. So what's happening here is my outer loop is setting a row. So if you think about Excel, you will see you have rows and columns. So your outer loop will print your row, and your inner loop is going to print the column. Okay, now in order to print a column, what it's doing is it's setting the first row and column as 1. So you just have the very top of the pyramid, okay? Then it'll run one more time. So I will now be 2. So it'll print the number 2, okay? Then when the inner loop runs, it's going to print just below that number and next to it, because you have to add the row. That's what it's saying. Where it's saying I plus 1, that's adding one more number to the row. I will show you now. Right, so then print I is, you will see, and the end is where it just goes to the next row to print that. This I equals I plus 2, that is going to be my equation. So that's going to set my numbers. Okay. So let me just, I was kind of hoping I could just, I'm just going to copy from here so that you guys don't have to wait for me to type all of that out. Okay, let me just share my screen as well. Okay, can you all see REPL here? I'm hoping so. Let me just enlarge it in case you guys can't see very well. Okay, I'm just going to come back to the chat. Just let me know if you guys can read that, if it's clear. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so if I now run this code, okay, it's going to keep asking me for a number, regardless of what I do, okay, until I print quit. So you can see that I've now put 3 numbers in here. Now I type in quit. So now it says I've only run 3 times, but it asked me the question 4 times, okay? The reason for this is going to run until I enter quit. It's not going to count when it runs to the else, because it needs to come past the counter there. Okay, so in this case, it will run 4 times, but the 4th time it runs through. Okay, then to have a look at the for loop, okay. So you can see here it's printing the pyramid now. So my outer loop and my inner loop together are printing this 1, okay? So it first prints the first part of the range in the first run through. So what's going to happen is when your outer loop runs, it comes through to your second loop here, your inner loop, okay? Now the inner loop will run until it has met this criteria here. So it's going to keep running until it has run through the entire range. Then it'll come out of the loop, and then it'll come back to the outside loop. But now this keeps incrementing, so it's going to keep running. So you can see here, it's printing the first time, then it's printing the second time. So now it's printed 1 because the outer loop here is 1. The inner loop is 1. So it goes out, it hasn't done anything here yet, okay? And then it goes outside. Now my outer loop is 2, okay? So my increment here now is 2. This is now 2, therefore 2 has printed. But now it's saying I plus 1, so it's adding 1 more digit to the row, okay? So this is not doing the mathematics. That's why this isn't 3, okay? It's not doing the math there. It's just adding to that row, okay, in order to create the pyramid. What is happening is here you've got the mathematics. That's why it's going 2, 4. So it's incrementing by 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 is 7, and so forth and so forth. Okay, so it just keeps, every time the column runs, it keeps adding 1 more row, or 1 more digit to the row. So this keeps running until all of that has happened, and then it comes out of the loop and it does that. So for example, you could play around with for loops as much as you like. You can pretty much do just about anything. So you can see now here I've done all of that mathematics, okay? If I were, for example, to do this, now you can see it's adding 2 rows, it's adding 2 rows, it's adding 2 rows. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Hello, Batman. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is the reading of text files and slicing. Okay, so this, especially for data scientists, will be prevalent because you guys will be working with CSV files. You will also be manipulating the data in those CSV files. So slicing will be very important for you. All right. For the software engineering guys, this is going to be more pertinent to your last couple of tasks, especially the last two slides that I have here that will cover dictionaries and how to write to a file. So this, for any of the software engineering guys who are looking to have task 25 covered, I'm not giving you the answers here, but I'm giving you the baseline to work from. Okay. So writing to a file. So you should already have an existing file. I mean, that is pretty obvious. You can't read something that does not exist. In this case, we are setting a variable equal to opening that file and reading it. Okay. Then you're saying you putting a loop in there in order for it to read all of the lines in that file. And I'm simply just here printing out the lines. Okay. In this case, just below that, outside of my loop, I'm doing some slicing. You can have a look at the commentary there. I see we're kind of running out of time for a 30-minute webinar, so I'm just going to run through this very quickly. But you can have a look at all of these comments here, and you can go and play around with the slicing as you need to. Okay, so if you look at, for example, print line 5:10, this is going to print from the 5th character. Okay, and when you do slicing, this includes your spaces and your commas and all of that. So you need to, when you count in a string, you need to count the special characters and the spaces as well. So this is going to be from the 5th place or 5th character up to the 9th. So it's not going to include the 10th. This, you will see, excuse me, will print from the 37th character up to the very last character, and vice versa here. Okay, so it prints every character up to the 37th character. So if I were to run that code, 2 seconds, let me just copy that code. Okay, let me just share my screen again. Okay, so you can see I've got a text file here, okay, with a lot of characters in there. There's 5 sentences there, so 5 lines. I know it looks like more lines. It's just because my screen is squished. So everything here, you can see it's counting the lines. Everything here, if it were a nice big screen, would have been 1 line each. Okay. So now if I run this, okay. So now you can see it's here, it is writing or printing each of the lines that it has read inside of the text file. Okay. Now where the slicing begins is here. Okay. So this E mid, that would be character 5 to 10 of the last row. So here, if you had to count it, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 0. How dare I count from 1? How dare I? Okay, so it's 0, 1. Then the space is counted as 2, 3, 4, and 5 is where I want to start my slicing. Okay, therefore the E. And you will see that it counts that space as well after the E there, and then just counts that. So that's how slicing from one place to another will work. Then you'll see I've sliced out the word opportunity with the period at the end there. That's what this would do. Okay, so your semicolon there will just make it print everything after that index number. And then obviously the same here. So in this case, you can see it's also counting the space. If I highlight there, it's counting the space between the 2 O's there. So if I were to change this, You can see it just counts everything up to that A. Right, then I've just taken a couple of indexes in the actual last sentence there to print out the word hello there. So slicing is pretty simple. I'm pretty sure you guys kind of understand that. If you have any further questions on that, just ask it in the text here. I see there's a lot of chatting going on there. Right. So the next thing we're going to cover is writing to files. Okay. So writing to files, you don't necessarily need a file to read from in order to write to it, though you can do it that way. Any input can be written to a file. Okay. In this case, I'm just taking in a string. You can also slice any strings that you want to write to that file. So if what am I doing? Sorry. Okay, so if I just copy that code there. Okay, share my screen again. Okay, now you'll see I don't have a file here called writing.txt. The reason for this is it will actually look for a file called writing.txt, and if it does not exist, it will create that file for you. Okay, so if the file does exist, it will simply overwrite whatever is in there. Otherwise, it will create the file and then write to the file. Okay, so if I do that, enter a string, just say I am here today, you'll see it does nothing in my console, but here is my writing file now. And it is written, I am here today. And then I sliced it as well. So you can see any slicing that you do in your code will translate into whatever you write in your text files. So this, once again, will be very pertinent for data science students who are doing, who are reading from CSV files, and they need to output either to a new file to sort their data or clean up their data, or if you're doing analytics on that data, you can slice it around like that. You will also see that when you start getting involved with matplotlib, which is just your data science plotting, you'll also use slicing like this. It'll be a little more complicated than what I've done here, but it will be in the same type of thing. Okay. Okay. So, oops. What am I doing? Why is this thing? Okay, there we go. All right. So the next thing we're going to cover is dictionaries. This is more pertinent for the software engineers. Will somebody please answer Batman? Matplotlib is. Okay, Radar's going to answer you. Right, so dictionaries, this is basically, you're going to use this for the software engineering students. You're going to use this, I think, in at least 2 of your tasks, definitely in task 25. And I think it's the cafe task somewhere. I can't remember exactly which task it is, 17 maybe. Okay, so basically what a dictionary is, what I've done here is I've created a list, okay? Now, my list just says what exactly it is that I need to do for my car. I need to put fuel in my car. I need to put tires on my car, and I need to put oil in my car. Right. Now, I've created a dictionary for the pricing there. Right. So fuel, in this case, a dictionary has a key and a value. Right. So if you are familiar with arrays, or as I showed you earlier with the string slicing, you have indexes, okay, indices. So with an array and strings, your indices will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And that is how you call the value that is in that index, okay? With a dictionary, in this case, fuel, tires, and oil, that would be my index, so to speak. So if I want the value for fuel, I can ask it for the value of fuel, or I can simply say this dictionary dot values, I want that value for the dictionary, and it will give me all of the values there. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely running out of time here. I'm also going to show you that it's quite easy as well to write a text file from a dictionary, just very quickly. Let me just copy the code there. And share my screen. Okay. Okay, I'm using write.txt, but I'm going to delete that anyway. Okay, so if I run this code here, okay, so you can see here, I have asked it for a total. So what it's doing is in this loop here, it is actually totaling all three of those values for me. So it's saying total plus equals price. So it's looking in price. So it's grabbing the values, okay, and it's summing those values. So it's basically every time it iterates through price, this dictionary, it goes, okay, there's a price, so I add it to total. So instead of incrementing, we now have a sum, okay, because now it's adding 900, 2,545. And therefore, I get that total. Okay. Then you can see here, I have printed out just the keys. So if you're looking to access the keys, that would be the way to do it. Keys here is an internal Python function, the same as values. Okay, so you don't have to go and write a function for it. You don't need to declare it. None of that. You just call it. It is an internal Python function, the same as list or sum or print. All of those are internal Python functions. So the program will understand what you want. As long as you have a dictionary, it will understand what you want when you say, I want the keys or I want the values. And then I've just gone and written the values to a text file, and you can see there they are. Okay, so this is pretty fast, but like I said, you guys will get the PowerPoint slide. Let me just do that. You guys will get the PowerPoint slide for this, so you'll have all this code on hand. What I would suggest you do is just, go and play around with the code. Most of this you can manipulate and, go and figure out what breaks it, go and figure out what makes it work better. See if you can do nested loops with dictionaries, or have a look and, see if you can build a nested loop. And when I say nested loop, I mean the loop that did the, where was it now? This is a nested loop. Okay, this for loop here, so a loop within a loop. See if you can use Python and Excel. See if you can get it to iterate through Excel rows and columns. You really need to play around with code and practice with it in order for it to make sense to you. For me to sit here and show you what the code does is one thing. I promised you in about an hour's time, you're probably going to forget. So, and I know this is very rudimentary, especially for some of you, but if you've gone through these tasks already and you understand how they work, I would still suggest go and play around with the code. Go and put it with whatever other code you have and just mess around. That is the best way to figure out how this works. Okay, so if there are any further questions, I suggest asking them now. Otherwise, I am going to say goodbye and thank you for being around. Cool, you guys are very welcome. I hope all of that made sense. I know I went through it pretty quickly. Batman, you are welcome. Does anybody want to answer Ty, or shall I? Oh, sorry, Ty, just give me 1 second. Something that I completely forgot. I'm actually on this slide, the loop slide. Sorry. You'll see this picture here that says Python loops, where it has the while loops, for loops, nested loops, and loop control statements. Just above that, I've put a link. If you go to that link, you'll see it'll cover the loop control statement. So that's the stuff like break, continue, and pass. Those are also pretty good to have a look at. Break especially with while loops. So you might want to have a look at that. Yeah. So unless you set, let me just go to the slicing there. So in this case, unless you actually set it to a specific line, it's going to always read the last line. So I just wanted to show string slicing. So if you want to, you can go and play around with, in this for loop, just copy that piece of code there, the open document, set your document, and then copy the for line in F, and just go and play around with line, and you'll see you can actually jump around the lines there. Okay. I think we're just about out of time there. We've actually run over a little bit. If you guys do have any further questions, or if you don't receive this deck after this, once I've closed the webinar, you guys are welcome to just go on Discord and just ask for the deck so that we can send it to you, or you guys can just ask further questions there. I do believe I will be on Discord, and I'm pretty sure Nkosi is usually on Discord, and so will the other mentors be during the course of the day. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure some of the more advanced students will also be able to answer any of the questions that you guys have. Yeah, so this should pretty much cover most of what you'll need to know for the first module in software engineering. The data science is a little more complicated, but if you stick to these basics, you should be able to figure it out. Cool. All right, guys. Have a very nice day, and thank you very much for hanging around. Hey, I appreciate it. Bye.